pretty. Hi, this is Sally Morgan, physical therapist, craniosacral therapist, and Tellington Tea Touch practitioner for animals and people. This is Tristan. He's a Corgi, and we're here for an episode of Conversations with a Corgi after a few days off. Sunny in Maine, sunny here too, supposedly 70, but it's been really hot the last couple of days, and the Japanese chins are here. Today I want to talk about Lost Dog Awareness Day, which was on Tuesday, a couple days ago. But it's such an important thing to think about that I feel like we really need to spend some time talking about it here. I've done many episodes on lost dogs, and I think you can't hear it enough because finding your dog when he's lost is, critical. And people don't know how to do it. And there are, as in my area, people that call themselves lost dog specialists who do a terrible job. You want your dog more than anybody in the world, and you need to take charge of getting that dog back. The first thing I highly recommend, oh yeah, thanks, I always wear purple and blue. The first thing I highly recommend is getting your dog chipped with a microchip that can be scanned. Now these chips move around in the dog, but boy, after Katrina and things like that, anybody who had a dog chipped had a much better chance of getting their dog back than the people who may have put a collar on the dog and you don't know what's happened. The tag could have come off, it could be unreadable, but the chips are critical. I have a friend with a dog who is mostly on a leash because she's pretty naughty, and she refuses to get the dog chipped, but she's got children who are like 10 years old. Anything can happen with a kid. And I feel like it's so dangerous to not have a chip in that dog. And she does other things that are really poor for the dog's health. I think a chip is the last thing to be worried about. You're a helicopter parents. Yes, your kids are chipped. In Maine, I'd want them chipped because if they do escape, all kinds of things could get them. So, chipping is the first thing to do to not lose your dog. My dog is... I have to pay $20 a year to Home Again to keep him registered with them. The great thing about them, though, if you don't pay for 10 years, they still keep records of your dog, and it will still come up on the chip, and they'll still call my sister's office. I mean, she's the one who chipped him, so maybe that's dumb for me not to have him local, but my sister will be able to contact me in a flash, and she's always on her phone for email or something, so and especially if she knew my dog was lost. So having that dog chipped is the first critical thing to not losing your dog. And what I love about the Home Again people is that they also send you a newsletter, I think quarterly online, that tells you amazing stories of dogs being reunited, which does help you later if you or a good friend has ever lost a dog. Hearing that some dog has been recovered after a long time makes you so happy to get them back. And Jim and James, a friend of mine, had a pom, and she lives on a farm out in the country, and it was winter and he wandered off, and she was sure he was dead. There was snow, there was all kinds of critters, and I just had a strong feeling that he was not dead. And I told her, she literally had her eyes off of him for like 5 minutes. And I said, he's got to be near you. You've got to go out there and look around a shed, under a crumbling fence post, under a couple of rocks, any place he could fit into. And sure enough, there was a shed 30 feet from where she lost him, and he had gone under there and gotten caught, and he was traumatized and he couldn't get out. He was too scared. The snow was deep. He's a little black guy, so it makes it even harder. But she got him back by not panicking and by immediately posting on Facebook that I've lost my dog, help. And tons of people were writing in, oh, I'm so sorry, thoughts are with you, praying for you. All that stuff helps. So I think that's one of the important things we have now with Facebook, especially if you have local friends, to be able to post that your dog is lost. People will know people in your area maybe. I've got a couple of friends I'm friends with who have tons of relatives in South Jersey. So if I posted something and somebody had lost a dog down there, they would be able to call their relatives and say, look for this dog. So Facebook posting is important. The most important thing you can do locally, though, and it works really well, is immediately put up posters of pictures of your lost dog everywhere, and put them in people's mailboxes, slip them in their doors. I mean, you cannot waste a minute. You don't have to say, oh, he'll come back tomorrow. No, put the lost pictures out within 10, 15 minutes, an hour of when you lose him. Because once he's not coming when you call and you're not seeing any hide nor hair of him, he is officially lost. And so you need to tell everybody around you, because he's going to be in that area where you last saw him. The real tragedy comes when, and I know this has happened to people, groomers, dog sitters, friend of a friend coming in to let your dog out, lose the dog. And those people have no idea how to find a dog, and they usually, if they've lost the dog, don't have a good system in place to recover a dog, and that is real tragedy. That's when your chip is going to save you. And people don't realize this, but I think we think back to the 50s and Lassie or something, where your dog goes to, quote, the pound. But these days, not every city has a shelter or a pound. A lot of the dogs, like in my town, this is so frustrating. I live in this really progressive, funky town that has tons of dog lovers. Restaurants let some dogs sit outside. I mean, this town is focused on pets. And yet, we have not got a shelter for dogs. Where do dogs go that are lost in my town? They go to the police station in a town 12 miles away. Would I call them and say, do you have my dog? No. How would I know? And we have a dog catcher, quote unquote, dog warden, but she's at our police station. But would I know prior to a lot more experience that that's who I would call? No. But to that end, you must call the police when you lose a dog, because the police are going to get calls, especially if you have a big dog or a pit or a Shep or, a Rottie, something that looks threatening. They're going to get calls saying there's a loose Rottweiler in my backyard. So the police are actually your best resource to find your dog, because many of lost dogs are housed in those places. And, we have a couple of shelters here in Springfield and Chicopee that are, or Holyoke, I don't know what town that one's in, but, they're 20 miles from here. What good is it going to do for me to call them? They don't even take found pets from my area. So if the person who found him said, oh yeah, I live in this town, they would be like, sorry, not coming here. So the biggest problem in my area with a lost dog is tracking him down after the people that have found him do stuff with him, because the scope of where he's gone gets wider and wider and wider. That's why it's really important that you have really the ability to make a poster ASAP with a picture of the dog and, what he looks like, and if he's shy, do not approach on it, or call this number ASAP, or text or email. The more ways people can reach you, the better. A lot of people will pull over and text you, but they won't bother to call you. So make sure you have lots of ways to be reached on that sign with a very good picture of the dog. And it should be a picture, oh boy, we had this lost dog in my neighborhood who I finally called an animal communicator about, and he is expired. But the picture of him wasn't very good. He looked really scared, and behind him you could see he had been chewing on the wall. He was one of those big breed puppies who was adopted by dog neophytes, and they did not know how to care for him. They didn't give him enough exercise. They had little kids. The dog had a lot of emotional issues going on, clearly by the picture, and he just took off. And apparently he had been gone a few times, and it was very sad. And those posters are still hanging around here. It's been I think in September it'll be a year. So somebody's got to take those down. I don't know if it'll be me, but every time I see them, I just feel sad, because the people didn't even really care about the dog, which is heartbreaking. So having a poster ready, having your dog chipped, making sure your neighbors know what kind of dog you have. Interesting things been happening here. There's somebody 10 miles away from me on the other side of town that has a poster or something out by a big road that says baby corgis for sale. People have stopped my neighbor walking her cairn, me coming to the bank where a friend of mine works who has a corgi, and told him, oh, there's corgi puppies for sale. So the fact that people go out of their way and recognize who has corgis in the neighborhood, they're going to come to me if they see a lost corgi running around. And it might not be mine. Let's hope it's not mine. But, when you become known for a certain type of dog, that's going to help people connect you with one that they see running loose in the backyard. I had a friend who had a lot of Rottweilers, which was a downgrade from Shar-Peis, which are really fierce. And they had a big fenced-in yard and big, beautiful, active, lovely Rots. One of them jumped the back fence to chase some deer and went running through the neighborhood. And you know, Rotties are scary. People out in that area would likely think it's a bear. So that Rottie was really vulnerable. But they got him back because the first person who saw him went to the house, and, you know, the dogs were always running around in the yard, but they sat out at the end of the driveway and beeped until the people came out. And then they said, I saw a Rottweiler running here up the road. It was a long dirt road behind their house. And that's how they got their dog back, because somebody knew that they had Rots because they're always running around their yard, and came in and said, hey, there's one like yours running up the road. You should get it. And sure enough, it was their dog. Also have to be more aware of people who will steal your pet to resell. Yes, that is becoming a much bigger problem. I remember years ago, there was a car stolen out of the mall around here, and there were some Chihuahuas in it. It was the winter or something. And boy, that person was devastated, and it took a long time. I don't even know if they ever got the car back, but sure enough, the Chihuahuas were running around the neighborhood near where the car was stolen from. Nowadays, of course, Jim's right, you would be finding lots of ads trying to sell your dog, especially if you have a purebred. So I don't recommend that you take your dog to the grocery store and leave him in the car anymore. We used to do that when we were kids, you know. You'd love to take the dog out when you were going places. Sure, take him with you when you're going out to get an ice cream cone and you're going to be with him. But if you're going in somewhere, it's very dangerous to leave your dog in the car, especially if he's not a fierce-looking big dog. You know, somebody might not approach a car with even a pointer in it because they're big and they can hurt you. But like if you've got a cute little fluffy dog, a Bichon, you know, a Corgi, a Havanese, any of the doodles, because they're super hot items now, or God forbid, a French bulldog, that dog is vulnerable. So having the chip is important, because anybody who gets a dog and wants to sell it, the new person is going to probably take it to the vet, and the vet will chip it. And then they'll know, oh my gosh, this dog belongs to so-and-so. So it's a great thing to have your dog chipped, because there's so much people intervention now. It's not like in the days of Lassie, where Lassie could wander off and go across a flooded stream and not be able to get home, and she's at, quote, the dog catchers, you know, at somebody's house in the next town over, and you can track her down pretty easily. There's so many different things now going on where people pick up dogs. I had some lost dogs around here. You don't let them out of your sight. I know. I don't either. None of us do. There was a lost husky puppy. Now, I know huskies. They wander. They are hard to keep track of. So this like 1-year-old husky puppy was running around the neighborhood, and I have a huge fenced-in yard. So I put the Corgi in the house, and I went out, and I kept calling the dog and sort of playing with him and running back and forth and running back and forth. He followed me through the gate. I closed the gate. And then he was super friendly, luckily. So I was able to read his collar. And my neighbor knows a lot of people in the neighborhood, so she knew who he belonged to. But I couldn't call them because I didn't have their phone number. So I drove up the road, banged on the door, and sure enough, it was their dog. They had been visiting, the person that owned the dog was visiting family members down there. Luckily, they had the same last name, because that would have been a problem if they didn't. And he came down with his Jeep and picked his dog up. And now they've got an electric fence in their yard. Doesn't always work with a husky, but I walk by that house all the time, and the guy's sitting on the porch looking all happy. And, you know, luckily he was returned. A friend of mine lost her husky years ago, because the husky's been gone for many years, but in the 90s. And that dog wandered all over Berkshire County. She was so self-sufficient, big coat. It was fall to winter. She was eating squirrels and being seen around the neighborhood. The problem, she was a red husky. Luckily, she was fairly white, because the problem around here is huskies look like wolves and coyotes, which people shoot. So luckily, that dog was staying on the periphery of pretty settled areas instead of going through farmland. But sure enough, she, thanks to the chip, got that dog back 6 weeks later, and no worse for the wear. Hadn't even lost much weight. I mean, huskies are super self-sufficient. So, National Lost Dog Awareness Day. If you know anybody that has just recently got a dog or gotten a different breed of dog, you know, my fence too with the clay in the soil has shifted. So now the space under the fence at the gates is like this high instead of this high. So I've got to be really super careful with my dog. a puppy that I might be getting later this summer, and my wiener friends when they come over, because they can slip under there. So make sure you check your property. Certainly don't leave your dog with anybody that is so irresponsible that they would let the dog out without a leash or not notice that he's missing. Another dog I know got lost when a person took him off leash on a hike, and the dog was loose, got scared of something, and took off from the hike area out into a main highway. Oh, devastating situation, devastating. So, you know, and I know plenty of groomers who have lost dogs. Dogs are very scared at the groomers. It behooves you to have a really good groomer that knows your dog well, that knows you well, and you know, because that way your dog's friendly and doesn't want to leave the groomer. You know, give him lots of treats when he's there, even if the groomer doesn't, so that the first time the door's open and he's loose, he doesn't escape. So that's really important. A lot of groomers do lose dogs, so keep track of that. So a big day, National Lost Dog Awareness Day. We really need to think about losing our dogs, even though lots of us never will. But when I moved to the new house, this little bugger got out and took off and had a little hour of running around the neighborhood, and he's short, cars can't see him. I am very lucky I got him back. And he wouldn't do that again because he loves his mummy. He used to go around the fence and check the periphery constantly to find a way out, but now he doesn't do that anymore. Good boy. And now you're going to have to protect the puppy so he doesn't escape. So, thanks for joining us for National Lost Dog Awareness Day. Everybody keep your pets safe. And if you got a new friend with a puppy or a new dog, make sure they have a chip. It's really important to be able to track back your dog to you. And as I said, any dog that goes to the vet, if the vet doesn't know it, 9 times out of 10, they scan it to make sure that that dog does not have another home. So everybody enjoy this sunny day today. Have a great day. Tristan and I are very tired from dog school yesterday. We got to do 4 runs in agility because hardly anybody was there, which tired me out enough to make me say, I need to start doing that run, walk thing so that I can really do a better job with him. And then we went to rally class, which I have to say, we were so tired from agility. Rally was hard. And we're taking an online dog dancing class. Tristan's little brain is full, and he's a little chubby. We're all on diets here so we can do our dog sports. Everybody, we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining us.